It may not come as a surprise to state that Shenmue is one of my most beloved games of all time, and that playing through Shenmue 1 and 2 was a video game experience that I cherish above all others, save for one. Like many fans of the series, I pined for a third game that seemed nothing more than an impossible dream for an arduous 14 years, never quite giving up hope, but never daring to believe in the rumors that would come and go as the years rolled on. Miraculously, Shenmue 3 was announced at E3 in 2015 at the Sony press conference as a Kickstarter project. I started screaming with joy while watching the live stream, freaked out my wife, and couldn't go to sleep that night, even though I had to work at 5 a.m. the next day. The Shenmue 3 Kickstarter set several world records and remains one of the highest funded Kickstarted games at the time of this video. So now some time has gone by since that momentous occasion, and we received word that Shenmue 3's release date will be pushed back to 2018. Which is fine, because if I can wait a decade and a half for a game, I can wait one more year. But some of you may be wondering what took them so long to make a third game in the first place, and what was happening with the Shenmue franchise during the long hiatus between the release of Shenmue 2 and the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter announcement. Were there any Shenmue games creator Yu Suzuki was working on during this time? This video is based on the request of Pheonix Splash TV, who in my opinion has made some of the best Shenmue content on all of YouTube. In the spirit of his request, I thought it would be fun to take a quick look at the lost games of the Shenmue series that time forgot. To Pheonix Splash TV and anyone else stopping by, I hope you enjoy the video. But before we jump into the lost games, let's take a brief look at what happened with Shenmue and its first successor. Developed by Sega AM2 Studios and directed by Yu Suzuki, Shenmue was an ambitious take on the 3D open-world action-adventure genre released for the Sega Dreamcast in 1999 in Japan and in the year 2000 in other regions. It was praised for its impressive visuals, innovatively interactive world, and phenomenal soundtrack. While Shenmue enjoyed an excellent critical reception, it was a costly endeavor that failed to recoup its development costs, despite being the fourth best-selling Dreamcast game. The exact amount of money poured into Shenmue's development is still a controversial topic, but despite the actual amount, it was the most expensive game ever created at the time of its initial release. However, much of its development cost also covered development for Shenmue 2, which was released for the Dreamcast in 2001, except in North America. Shenmue 2 would later be released for the Xbox in 2002, and while Shenmue 2 also received high critical praise, it failed to sell anywhere close to the numbers of the first Shenmue. By this time, Sega were no longer in the home console hardware market, and Yu Suzuki would depart from his position as head of AM2 in 2003 to begin work on other projects for Sega, including an MMO titled Shenmue Online. In 2004, development was announced for Shenmue Online as a joint undertaking between Sega and JC Entertainment of Korea. This was part of Sega's strategy to enter the growing Asian MMORPG market. In Shenmue Online, players would have the option of joining one of three clans. These clans would feature respective leaders named Xiahua, Zhu Ying, and Wu Ying. The idea was to progress through the story in the Shenmue universe by completing various tasks given by these leaders. It was planned that the three rival clans would also be given opportunities to interact in friendly as well as hostile scenarios. Appearances from mainline Shenmue characters such as Ryo and antagonist Lan Di were intended to be made during these scenarios. Yu Suzuki stated that arcade games, working jobs for cash, and collecting toy capsules were also intended to be part of the experience, as well as some exclusive content to the online game. Primarily taking place in areas like Hong Kong and China, Shenmue Online was supposed to be a game in which original Shenmue gameplay would be given an MMO twist. Things like the QTEs were being reworked in order to fit in better with the online setting. This idea did not appeal to many of Shenmue's fans in the West, which is not surprising as Shenmue Online was designed specifically to appeal to the Chinese market. As I understand it, somewhere around $26 million was invested into the Shenmue Online project. This figure may or may not be entirely accurate, but Shenmue Online was nevertheless an expensive venture. A public beta was planned in China for 2005, but that year JC Entertainment would pull out, and since they owned 50% of the project, there was a lot of legal talk around who really owned Shenmue Online. Some gameplay footage was revealed during the 2006 China Joy Convention and during the 4th China Expo, but Sega ended up deciding to withdraw their online division in China altogether, and so Shenmue Online was quietly cancelled without so much as an official statement from Sega themselves. I remember being really bummed out when this one was cancelled. I saw an image in a GamePro magazine that made it appear as though your character could charge and shoot fireballs like in Street Fighter. I remember being pretty interested in that idea. In 2008, Yu Suzuki would form his own video game development company entitled YSNet, or YSNet. In 2010, he would return with another stab at an entry in the Shenmue series with a mobile game called Shenmue Guy for Yahoo Mobile Games, developed by YSNet and published by Sunsoft for smartphones. It's strange because while Shenmue Online was a game that was never actually released, I know more about it than Shenmue Guy, a game that actually had a release in Japan. After observing the success of social media games like Mafia Wars, Suzuki-san decided to try using this popularity as a platform to relaunch the Shenmue franchise. While most people translated Shenmue Guy as Shenmue City, or even as Shenmue World, this is somewhat misleading as the word city denotes a highly populated area in most cases. Yu Suzuki once mentioned that Shenmue Town would be a more appropriate translation, but Shenmue City is the name that ended up sticking. In this game, you play as a sort of errand runner for the Hazuki residence, with Ryo being your main boss. There was a big press conference for the launch of Shenmue Guy in 2010, explaining some of the details of the mobile game, but I was unable to find a translation for this conference. Apparently, there are many screenshots, fighting scenes, and other assets lifted directly from Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 in the Shenmue Guy project. Graphically, the game seems to be pretty hastily cobbled together, with Shenmue 1 and 2 assets in one style, images from Shenmue Online in another art style, and Shenmue Guy menu assets in yet another style. There appear to have been 4 main components to Shenmue Guy, one being combat, another being events, which I am still unsure what that might specifically entail. I think mini-games are part of Shenmue Guy in some way, and the 4th aspect is the one that I just couldn't find any information about at all. Shenmue Guy would only be released in Japan and would never make it to North America or Europe. It doesn't seem to have been very successful in Japan either, as it was released in December of 2010 and discontinued in December of 2011. While many fans weren't too disappointed by this, since Shenmue Guy was not a direct continuation of the Shenmue storyline, I think there were quite a few people, at least in the US, who would have liked to have played this game. A PC version of Shenmue Guy was also in the works, but was cancelled as well. I'm not sure if there is any footage out there of Shenmue Guy being played, but I know that I've never seen any footage of it. That's part of the reason why, even though it was released in Japan, I consider Shenmue Guy to be a lost Shenmue game. I'm not sure if it can ever be accessed again for posterity's sake. Shenmue Guy is an example of the dilemma of video game preservation for online and mobile games. Well, that's about it for my short and sweet look at 2 of Shenmue's lost games. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you know any additional information about either Shenmue Online or Shenmue Guy that I left out of this video, please let me know in the comment section below, because I would love to learn about these games from you. In any case, we get to look forward to Shenmue 3, and that makes it all worth it in the long run to me. Until next time everybody, be safe and take care.